Hi, I'm Sarah. My sister once shoved me onto the ice and laughed while I bled. And when she ended up in a hospital bed, begging for my blood, they all acted like nothing ever happened. My mom called it a family misunderstanding. My dad said, "You'll regret it if she dies." But no one ever asked if I survived what came before. And when I stayed silent, they lied louder. They faked a gift, leaked my journal, labeled me unstable. But here's the thing, they pushed the wrong person. And I didn't fight back with fists. I used truth. Want to know what happened next? The wind was sharp that night, not the kind that stung your face, but the kind that snuck into your coat and sat heavy on your chest. I stood just outside the entrance of that restaurant, fingers frozen around the doorknob, telling myself I was only late because I didn't want to be early. Inside, warmth poured out in flashes of champagne laughter and flashes from a phone camera. Iris's birthday, her 35th. Or, in her words, the celebration of the decade. That's how it was listed on the invitation she forwarded to me 2 days ago. Only after Mom asked if I was coming. I stepped in. No one turned. No one needed to. The hostess gave me a quick look, flipped through her little book, then forced a smile that said she had no idea who I was. "We're kind of full. There's a chair near the service counter. Would that be okay?" I said, "Sure." That chair, shoved next to the swinging kitchen door, gave me a full view of the party, or more accurately, their view of themselves. Iris sat at the center table like she owned it. Her dress screamed expensive and unnecessary. Her husband's arm rested behind her chair like property. My parents flanked her like bodyguards. There were flowers, candles, custom napkins folded like swans, and little place cards with people's names written in gold. At my seat, a plain white napkin folded into a rough square. No name, just a seat. I sat anyway. I told myself I didn't come to be seen. I came because, well, if I didn't, they'd say something. The night moved like it always did. Loud voices layered over each other, laughter rising only when Iris made a joke. She was funny, I'll give her that. She always had been. I remember being 5 and watching her perform impressions of our teachers while Mom clapped and said, "She's a star, isn't she?" And me? I was the quiet one, the filler child, the one they told to be more like Iris, or less like myself. Same thing. I excused myself midway through dinner, just to stand in the restroom for a minute, not to cry, just to breathe. The mirror caught me off guard. I looked older, tired, not because of life, but because of the effort it took to keep pretending I wasn't hurt. When I returned to my corner seat, a woman I didn't know raised her hand at me. "Could we get another bottle of wine over here?" she asked. I blinked. Before I could answer, Evelyn, my mother, leaned in, clearly having heard, and kept talking to her friend as if nothing had happened. Iris saw. Her eyes met mine. She didn't look away. She smirked. I didn't say a word, just walked back to my seat, picked up the napkin, and folded it neatly, crease by crease, like I was trying to press my breath into fabric. Some families are like stage plays. Only one person ever gets the spotlight. The rest were stagehands in black, told to disappear. The speeches began. Iris stood, glass raised, and thanked everyone who'd been there since day one. She called out friends, colleagues, even the mailman. She did not mention me. I didn't expect her to. But what I didn't expect was the weight in that silence. The way it filled the table, turned heads, made people glance over at me like I'd done something wrong by simply existing. I was never the plus one. I was the ghost in the family photo. The part you crop out. I folded the napkin one more time, sharper, tighter, tucked it into my coat pocket. That white square felt more honest than any of their words. Across the room, I caught sight of a photo backdrop where people were taking pictures with Iris. Someone motioned for me to join. I smiled, waved it off, mouthed, "Next time." There's never a next time, just the same moment, repeating. I remembered a time when Iris and I both applied for a scholarship. My scores were better, my essay was better. But the call came, and it was her name, not mine. Dad said, we had to pick the one who could actually represent the family. I remember nodding like I understood. That night wasn't about Iris's birthday. It was a reminder, to me and everyone else, where I stood. Behind her, Beneath her, beyond notice, a waiter passed and poured more wine into everyone's glasses except mine. I smiled at a guest who turned to me and said, "You must be her assistant." I said nothing. The snow had thickened by the time I walked out. My heels sank into slush as I crossed the parking lot alone. The night wasn't cold. My place in this family was. It was one of those days where the air didn't just bite, it clung. February in Duluth has a way of making you feel like you're walking through a dare, but Mom had insisted we do something as a family, like that was a thing we did. I didn't want to go. I went anyway. The rink was packed. Kids wobbling around in rental skates, dads carrying cocoa in one hand and toddlers in the other. Music playing from cheap speakers and old friends nodding like they still remembered your name, but hoped you didn't remember theirs. Iris, of course, made an entrance. She always did. Scarf knotted perfectly, coat cinched just right, phone out like the day was hers to document. Evelyn trailed behind her, phone in hand, not to take pictures of the group, just of Iris. That detail didn't surprise me anymore, but I noticed it. Again, I kept my distance. You know that feeling when you show up somewhere and immediately regret not canceling? That was me, lacing up skates that weren't mine, smiling too hard at people I didn't owe a smile to. She was loud about it. "My third interview's next week," Iris shouted over the music. "They said I might be the keynote. Can you believe it?" No one needed to say yes. It was expected. Like everything else with her, Evelyn beamed. "You've always been our golden girl." I was standing just far enough to hear it clearly, just close enough to not be able to pretend I hadn't. From somewhere behind me, a neighbor whispered to her friend, "The other one doesn't really shine, huh?" That burned more than the cold. I stood still on the ice for a long time, letting their words drift past me. People skated around like nothing happened, but I could feel it. The crack beneath my feet, thin, invisible, waiting. "Sarah," Iris called out to me, skating over with exaggerated grace. "You're so stiff. Let go a little." I smiled politely. "I'm good." She circled me once, then again. And on the third pass, without warning, she shoved. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't an accident. I hit the ice hard, chin first. My vision went black for a second, air knocked out of me. The sound was sharp, skates scraping, someone gasping, and then laughter. Hers, and a few others who thought it was a sibling thing, a prank. Evelyn rushed over, not to help me, but to crouch beside me and hiss, "Don't make a scene." Blood ran from the corner of my lip, warm against the cold. I tasted metal and salt. I lay there, not moving, not because I couldn't, but because I wanted to remember that moment exactly as it was. She looked at me and laughed, then skated off, waving to someone like she'd just nailed a trick. If this had been anyone else, I thought, someone would have called it what it was. But not her, and definitely not me. They don't raise daughters in some families. They raise comparisons. They raise silence. They raise someone to be watched, and someone to be invisible. And I was done pretending I didn't see it. The cut on my lip had stopped bleeding by the time I reached the edge of the rink. A stranger, an older woman with kind eyes, offered me her scarf. I took it. "Keep pressure on it," she said. "You're gonna bruise." I nodded. I never got her name. But I remember her face. They were still skating, laughing. Evelyn chatting with some couple about Iris's upcoming TV segment. I didn't go back to them. I left. The scarf pressed against my lip, blood soaking slowly through the fabric. I walked home, my skates clinking against my shoulder, boots crunching snow that hadn't been cleared. It took 45 minutes. I counted them, not because I was cold, but because I needed the distance. People think the coldest thing is being out in February in Minnesota without gloves, but they're wrong. The coldest place is standing next to people who see you fall and laugh. When I reached my front door, I stopped. My keys were in my coat pocket, but I didn't reach for them. I just stood there, clutching that scarf, hearing her laugh again. It didn't sound like a joke anymore. It sounded like a habit. Nights like that don't really end when you get home. They just stretch into the next one. It had been a few weeks since the rink, since the fall, the laugh, the silence. Since Evelyn's voice telling me not to make a scene while blood hit the ice, the cut on my chin had healed, barely left a mark, but I still felt it throb when I was alone, mostly when I was lying flat on my back like now, in a bed that was too small and a room that felt even smaller. I hadn't been answering their calls. Evelyn left voicemails, short and clipped, like she was doing a chore. Raymond called once, didn't leave a message. I didn't call back. They didn't ask how I was, just if I was coming to something, or could be reasonable for the sake of appearances. Like always, I rolled over and reached for the old hard drive on my bookshelf. Dusty, but it still worked. Plugged it in, clicked through the folders. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it. There it was. A folder without a name, just a date. February 4th. The day of the rink. Click. The video opened on a shaky frame. You could hear music in the background, kids yelling. The camera wasn't steady, but you could see her, my sister, Iris, skating circles around the camera, waving, performing. Then me, stiff, guarded, trying. Then the push. It happened fast. I flew forward. The sound of the fall was sharp. My face hit hard. A pause. Then came the laughter. Hers, loud and careless. A few others laughed too, like they didn't know better. Then she looked into the camera. Dead on. She always falls for it. And then she winked. I paused the video. My hands started shaking, not from the cold, from the kind of realization that settles in your bones. It wasn't in my head. They didn't ignore my pain. They enjoyed it. I hit replay, watched it again. Replay. Again. By the 5th time, I couldn't breathe right. My chest felt tight, like I'd been punched in a place no one could see. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't childhood jealousy or misread signals. It was real. The bruises Evelyn brushed off. The nights she told me I was too sensitive. The eye rolls when I spoke up. The way Raymond said I took things too personal. They needed someone to be the fool, the contrast, the joke that made Iris shine brighter. And I played it, all these years. Not because I was stupid, but because I wanted to believe they weren't that cruel. I whispered it out loud, barely. They needed someone to laugh at. I just never knew it was always me. I stared at the screen for what felt like an hour, then opened my email, typed in my cousin's name, typed in a subject line, then stared at the blank message. Closed it, opened it again, closed it again. I thought about posting it, maybe on social. Caption, in case you ever wondered. But then I heard Evelyn's voice in my head. Why are you bringing this up now? Do you really want to cause trouble again? Not fear that stopped me, just fatigue. I created a new folder on my desktop, named it Evidence, moved the video into it, set a password I wouldn't forget. That was enough. For now, I printed one frame from the video, the part where Iris laughed right at the lens, cut it, trimmed it, slid it into a plastic sleeve, labeled the folder, What I Survived. Under it, a note. This is not a secret, it's a record. I cleaned my place after that, like something was shifting inside me and I needed the space to match. Folded laundry, took out trash, wiped counters that didn't need wiping. While folding towels, I found it. The scarf, the one the woman gave me at the rink. Blood still faint on the edge. I thought about tossing it, but didn't. Placed it next to the photo in the drawer. They belonged together. As I closed the drawer, I caught my reflection in the mirror on the wall. I didn't look angry or broken. I looked done. They won't get to write my version anymore. I waited until almost midnight, not because I was afraid someone would see me, but because I knew no one would be awake to care if they did. The porch light was off. The spare key was still under the planter by the door. Same cracked ceramic pot. Same chipped welcome mat with a faded "Bless this home" printed across the bottom like it ever meant anything. I slipped inside quietly. The house smelled exactly the same. Linen spray, old furniture, and whatever lavender diffuser Evelyn thought masked years of silence. It didn't. It never did. I didn't turn on the lights. Just walked through like muscle memory was enough. And it was. The hallway still had every family photo lined up like a shrine, but only one face showed up in every frame. Her, always her, birthday crowns, debate medals, graduation tassels. There wasn't a single picture of me past age 9. The rest, if they existed, were somewhere in a junk drawer, out of frame and out of mind. My room still looked like a guest bedroom. Beige walls, generic bedding. The kind of space you apologize for when company stays over. I opened the closet, found the box I'd left behind when I moved out. Mostly old notebooks, one hoodie, a broken bracelet from Grandma that I still couldn't throw away. I took the journal, the necklace, a scarf I barely remembered owning. Not the rink one. That stayed buried deeper. On the desk was a birthday card, still blank. I remembered buying it a few years back, thinking I might give it to Iris if things ever felt less like war. But I never wrote in it. I picked it up, flipped it open. The pen was in my hand before I noticed it, hovered over the page. But there was nothing to say, no apology to give, no sentence that wouldn't sound like a peace treaty I never agreed to. I folded it, blank, slipped it into the envelope, left it on the kitchen table. Some goodbyes don't need words, just an absence. Before I left, I passed through the kitchen. The fridge still had Iris's photos from her last magazine shoot. One of them taped crooked with a caption she wrote herself. "Family is everything." I stared at it for a second, thought about how many meals I cooked before her events, how many dresses I steamed, how many times I was asked to stay in the background so the light could hit her better. I remembered the time Iris told a reporter, I couldn't have done it without my family. I was backstage, holding her water, watching her lie. Not supported, I muttered. Silenced. I didn't turn off the lights when I left. Let them wonder if someone had come through. Let the empty space speak for me. The drive home was quiet. Duluth was mostly asleep, the streets nearly empty. No music, just tires against snow and 1,000 things I'd never said echoing inside my chest. I passed the school, the old store we used to walk to for candy. The rink. Didn't stop. Didn't slow down. Would they know I came? Would they even care? Part of me wanted to believe they'd wake up and notice the missing air, that someone had been there and decided not to stay. But I knew better. If I have to explain why I'm leaving, I said aloud to no one. They never saw me to begin with. Back at my apartment, I didn't even take off my coat. I grabbed a blank envelope, folded the receipt for the card inside, added the spare house key, sealed it, wrote across the front, no return address. Let them guess what it meant. That was the point. Across town, Evelyn came down for coffee the next morning and found the card on the table. She picked it up, turned it over. No signature, no handwriting. Iris walked in, saw it, and froze. She was here, she said. Her voice barely made it past her teeth. Evelyn shrugged like she hadn't just stumbled on a ghost. If she had something to say, she muttered, she should have said it. And just like that, the moment passed. The card stayed on the table, white, silent, heavy. I stood at the mailbox a few hours later, still in my coat. The envelope in my hand felt heavier than it was. I dropped it in, watched it disappear. They don't get to say I didn't try. The call came just before lunch. My phone lit up with Evelyn's name, not Mom. I'd taken that label off months ago. I stared at it for a moment, let it ring twice, then picked up. She's in surgery, Evelyn said, skipping over hello. Internal bleeding, car accident this morning. They said her blood type is rare. You're a match. No pause, no check-in, no, how are you holding up? Just business. I stayed quiet. Then her voice tightened, like she was already annoyed I hadn't jumped to action. You need to come. She needs you. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just said, text me the room number, and hung up. The phone felt heavier in my hand than it should have, maybe from the déjà vu, maybe from the weight of knowing what they'd always expected of me. Even in crisis, they assume I'll obey. By the time I pulled into the hospital parking lot, the sun had climbed too high, too bright for the kind of day this was shaping up to be. No one met me at the door. Inside, the lobby buzzed with the usual pace of medical urgency. Beeping monitors, slow-moving gurneys, people holding hope like it came in fragile paper cups. I saw her first, Evelyn, pacing, still not crying, just checking her watch, muttering into her phone. Raymond sat nearby, flipping through a newspaper like the waiting room was his living room. When they noticed me, Evelyn walked over. "Thank God," she said, but not with relief. More like someone checking a box off a list. "You're here. That's what matters." Not a question about how I was. Not a word about anything beyond what I could give. They still don't see me, I thought. Just the blood I carry. A nurse appeared, clipboard in hand. She asked if I could step aside for a moment. She explained everything calmly. Iris needed a direct donor. My blood type matched. They'd already done the cross-match prep. Timing was crucial. I nodded slowly. "Can I see her first?" She led me to the observation window. The room behind the glass was dim. Iris lay still. Machines beeped. Tubes curled around her arms. She looked small, pale, human, but all I could see was that smirk. The one from the rink. She always falls for it. I pressed my fingers against the cold window and whispered, "You think I'll save you, don't you?" Behind me, I heard footsteps. Evelyn again. "You have to do this," she said. "We're family." I turned, met her eyes. That line's expired. Raymond stood now, his voice low but sharp. "You'll regret it if she dies." I smiled without warmth. "I regret what you let her do when I lived." I turned and walked away. Not out of the hospital, but away from the prep room. Didn't say yes, didn't say no. Just walked until the hallway opened into the waiting area again. Sat down. Faced the muted TV where cartoons played for no one. A nurse came back after some time. "Have you decided?" she asked. "I'm thinking." "What happens if I say no?" I asked. She paused, measured. "Then she needs a miracle, or another match, but we don't have one yet." I nodded. "Thanks." Silence returned. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind, the kind that made people uncomfortable. They always expected me to bleed for them. Maybe this time, I let the silence bleed instead. I didn't get up, didn't leave, didn't offer anything. I texted Evelyn one word, waiting. I didn't clarify what for. I didn't leave the hospital. I sat in the cafeteria, untouched coffee cooling in front of me. Phone on silent. No news. Just the weight of it all pressing down, thicker than the smell of bleach and fried food that clung to the air. A doctor stopped by, same one from earlier. Said this was the final window to decide. That time was running out. That I was still the only viable match. I didn't answer him. Instead, I took the notepad from the tray return station, tore off a sheet, and wrote exactly what I wanted Evelyn to read. Just once, just clearly. "You taught me my worth only matters when someone else needs to survive." I decline. No explanation. No loophole. No drama. I folded it, handed it to the nurse with a nod. "Can you get this to my parents?" She looked surprised, but took it. I went back to my coffee, sipped it like I had all the time in the world. If my blood is the only thing you value, I told myself, then let the absence of it teach you everything else. I left 20 minutes later. Evelyn read the note in the hallway outside ICU. The gasp she let out wasn't sadness, it was insult. Raymond didn't even flinch, just said, "She's punishing us." That made Evelyn grip the page tighter. She's increasing the risk. She's gambling with her sister's life. Neither of them called me to talk. No message, no clarification. They called Connie instead, a family friend who owed Raymond favors and happened to run a local blog with too many readers. By the time I got back to my apartment, it was already starting. A headline: "Estranged sister sends peace offering after hospital emergency." The article claimed I'd sent a gift basket, claimed I'd included a handwritten note saying, "We're all we've got." They made up a basket and gave me back a lie. Around 7 that evening, a text from Melissa, old classmate. We hadn't spoken in years. "I saw the post. You okay?" I didn't reply. I stared at my phone a long time before opening the camera, placing it above the countertop, and snapping a photo of the basket. Still sealed, Still untouched. No note inside. Because it didn't come from me. Caption. They made it up. Again. That was it. Comments started within minutes. Petty. She's bitter. Blood is thicker. You only get one family. I didn't respond to any of them, but I pinned one comment to the top. My blood isn't a bandage. It stayed there all night. At 10 p.m., I called the nurse, the same one who delivered the note, asked if I could get a copy of it. She didn't ask why, just said she'd leave it at the front desk in the morning. I started a timeline that night, not for them, for me, documented everything, dates, texts, copies of posts, the lies, the edits, the silence. Then I called Arlene. She works in legal aid, not to sue. Just to understand what counted as defamation, what counted as misrepresentation, what counted at all, she listened, told me I wasn't crazy, told me it was smart to document, told me even if I never used it, having it mattered. You're doing what they never did, she said, protecting yourself. After the call, I opened my journal, wrote one line across the top. If they need a villain, I can be one. But it will be on my terms. Then I clicked open a new folder on my laptop, named it, Their Version vs. Mine. The envelope sat in my lap the whole drive. I didn't open it, didn't need to. I knew what it was before I read the words. An invitation, some community scholarship gala. My name listed under former recipient and, this part made me laugh, community speaker. As if I'd applied, as if I'd asked for the spotlight they used to keep from me. Iris was on the board. That explained everything. They weren't inviting me. They were drafting me. Another scene, another script, one they expected me to act out without a single line of my own. I stood outside the Duluth Convention Center that evening, coat zipped up to my chin, hair pulled back like they always said made me look less tired. I had no intention of giving them what they wanted, but I walked in anyway. The lobby buzzed with familiar faces, people who knew my name but forgot my voice, or maybe never heard it to begin with. I was placed in the back row. My chair tag didn't have my name, just guest. Everyone else had fancy gold cards with embossed letters. Mine looked like it was printed that morning on the office copier. Iris took the stage like she was born there. Her voice shook, just enough to seem humble. She talked about forgiveness, rebuilding, the power of family. She didn't mention me directly. She didn't have to. Photos played behind her, some real, some edited. There I was, in the background of every picture, smiling in moments that felt like bruises, like I didn't remember them that way, because I didn't. The crowd nodded, whispered, "She must have forgiven them. She's here, isn't she?" I sat there, still, quiet, not agreeing, not applauding, just present. They called my name next, or tried to. Tanya Davis. There was a pause, then laughter, not loud, but sharp enough to slice. I didn't flinch. I stood, walked toward the stage. Evelyn clapped like she'd coached me through it. Iris gestured, waiting for me to wave. I didn't. I reached the podium, set down the envelope I'd prepared. It was sealed, plain, no decoration. I didn't say a word, turned, walked back to my seat. The envelope said one thing: not every silence is agreement. As I walked out, the murmurs followed me like smoke. By the time I got to my car, photos were already online, captions like, "Family reunited." She finally came around. Blood wins. My inbox filled fast. Some praised me. Some asked if I'd really forgiven them. Some told me I was bitter, that I needed therapy, that I should grow up. I didn't answer anyone. I opened my laptop that night, sat at the kitchen counter with the same coffee I hadn't touched in hours, and started compiling dates, screenshots, emails, headlines, every twist they'd bent into the truth. I named the file. Not blood, not silence, just me. Then I opened the drawer where I kept it all. The plain white napkin from Iris's birthday. The hospital note. Tonight's program. I laid them side by side, refolded the napkin. "You can lie about me," I whispered. "You can't lie forever." Outside, snow had started to fall again. Soft, slow. Like the kind that covers everything until you can't tell what's under it anymore. But I remembered. The thing about being quiet too long is they forget you know how to speak. And that's the part they'll never see coming. I turned back to my laptop, attached the documents, queued the post, and scheduled it for 6 a.m. The clock read 5:59 a.m. I sat at the kitchen counter, coffee untouched, laptop glowing in the dark. The post was scheduled, everything attached. I stared at the screen like it might change its mind, but it didn't blink. At exactly 6 it went live. No fanfare, no dramatic music, just facts. A 20-second clip from the rink. The hospital note. A screenshot of the gift basket I never sent. Caption: not silence, not guilt, just correction. I shut the laptop, got up, started cleaning the apartment. 10 minutes later, the first ping came, then another, and then it didn't stop. By the time I finished rinsing dishes, the post had over 500 shares. Comments scrolled faster than I could read. Some people said they were proud. Some said they always knew something was off. Some just wrote, "Thank you." Melissa texted, "You did it." I didn't answer. A local journalist reposted the video with a line that hit harder than any headline. "Family secrets aren't always sacred. Iris, silent. Evelyn, gone. Her accounts wiped." As if removing her name could scrub away her part in all of it. I didn't look at the numbers anymore. I wasn't counting. Around noon, the second wave hit. Someone leaked my old journal. Pages scanned, taken out of context, highlighted in bright red circles. Quotes like, "Sometimes I wish I could disappear. This family makes me feel like a ghost in my own skin." Suddenly, I wasn't brave. I was unstable. I wasn't standing up. I was spiraling. Or so they said. It should have broken me. But it didn't. Because I remembered writing those things. I remembered exactly where I was, sitting on the edge of my bed, door closed, whispering my pain into a spiral-bound notebook because there was no one else to tell. I opened my laptop again. No long message. Just this. Yes, I wrote those things. You try growing up in a home that doesn't see you. I hit post and shut it down again. At 6:45 that evening, there was a knock at the door. I didn't answer at first, but something told me who it was. When I opened it, Evelyn stood there holding an envelope, neatly dressed. No makeup, just exhaustion and strategy. She handed it to me. "Don't destroy what's left of this family," she said. I opened it. $10,000. "It's not a bribe," she added quickly. "Just a gesture. A way to let it all fade." I looked her in the eyes. "You never paid attention when I bled," I said. "Don't try to buy me now." I stepped back, picked up the hospital note, folded the check into it and placed it back in her hands. Didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. Just closed it. Later that night, I sat on the floor, printing my full timeline. I didn't plan to publish it, not now, but I wanted it in ink. Something that couldn't be edited, couldn't be deleted. I opened the drawer. The napkin from the birthday, the scarf from the rink, the program from the gala, now the check, the journal printouts. I added a label to the folder. Truths they tried to erase. It didn't feel like revenge, just a record. And sometimes that's enough. At 11:32 p.m., a message came through from a number I didn't recognize. "You said it better than any of us ever could." I didn't reread the post for affirmation. I wasn't chasing reactions or digging for apologies that would never come. I read it again that morning the way someone rereads a will. Not for sentiment, just clarity. The drawer was still there. Same place, same contents. I laid everything out on the table in front of me. The napkin folded sharp like it had held its breath too long. The bloodied scarf, the note from the hospital, the printed timeline, the gift bag receipt. The check Evelyn handed me and I returned. The journal pages, scanned and twisted. It looked like chaos to anyone else. To me, it looked like proof of sanity. They won't come clean, I thought, but I won't be dirty because of them. I stood to throw away some coffee grounds when the door buzzed. No knock, just the buzz. A package sat on the doorstep. No name on the return address. Wrapped perfectly. White ribbon. Expensive paper. I didn't bring it in. I opened it right there. Inside was a leather-bound planner embossed with the initials TD and a note. "We hope this helps you start fresh. Love, the Vaughn family." The envelope was addressed to Talia Dawson, not Tanya, Talia. They couldn't even get my name right. Not in the last moment, not when pretending to fix it. I didn't scream, I didn't throw it, I didn't cry. I folded the card, slid it into the donation box in the lobby, and left the rest behind. Later that afternoon, I stopped by the hospital. I didn't go to Iris's room, didn't look for Evelyn or Raymond. I came to see Lucy, the nurse from that day, the one who handed my words to the people who ignored them. I brought her a book, paperback, a novel she mentioned once while adjusting my IV. She looked surprised, but smiled like it didn't shock her. I remembered. "You didn't have to say anything," she told me, "but what you did said more than they ever could." I nodded. "You weren't wrong," she added. "You were just early." We hugged. Quick. Real. No one took a photo. No one posted about it. I walked home the long way. Phone buzzed. Message from Raymond. "I hope you find peace, but I can't stand being made out as the bad guy. Don't contact us again." I didn't reply. I saved the text, printed it, slid it into the last page of the timeline folder. "That's the closest to closure he'll ever give," I told myself, "and I'll take it for what it is, finality." At home, I opened my journal. Wrote the last entry on the last page. I didn't win. I didn't lose. I just stopped playing a rigged game. I clicked open a new document, titled it, "Letters I Won't Send." First one started with, "I remember laughing too, just never at you." I printed it, folded it, filed it away. Not to forget, just to stop carrying it in my mouth. I packed a bag, nothing dramatic. A few clothes, a blanket, the book Lucy gave me back. I booked a cabin 2 hours north. Before I left, I printed the full timeline again, put it in a metal bowl on the back porch, lit a match, watched it curl and crackle until the edges vanished into air. I didn't cry, didn't smile, just watched. Then I sipped tea on the porch, fire fading behind me. It never needed to be louder, just enough,